All right.
We are live, buddy.
Woohoo!
Actually, your name's Walt, but you know.
Yes, yes, it is.
All right, this is another edition of the LinuxInstall.net podcast. This is episode number 114. 114.
Is it? Yeah, I guess it is.
Yes, it is. You weren't here last week. That put you.
I would say that's what happens when you miss.
Yes. So my name is Brian Wagner. With me this week is Mr. Walt Jubeck.
All right.
And it's just the two of us because, little things like Joe's wife having a birthday and other stuff.
Priorities. Come on now.
Yeah. I don't know where his priorities are.
Obviously.
Because he's not here sharing his Linux goodness with us. Anyways, what have you been up to this week, Walt?
Oh, well, last week and this week. Let's see, recap. So, some ZFS fun. Ended up upgrading my home NAS. I was about a year's worth of updates behind because the box was just running so good. On the rare occasion where I decided I'm just gonna let it run. But I'm trying to consolidate again some home gear, and I wanted to get rid of my old Apple Time Machine. So when trying to enable Time Machine support on the NAS, I found out the version I was running had a bug that did not, basically Bonjour did not broadcast the share properly. There was a whole lot of command line scripting you could do to make it work that every time it rebooted you had to do again. Not that my box reboots very often, but I was kind of saddened to hear that, so I decided to do an update, which entailed going from the V28 version of ZFS to the 5000 version. Once you've converted, you are now stuck. But surprisingly enough, I run the NAS for free, and everything worked out just fine. And the newer version does not have the bug, and we are now synchronizing as intended. And it's NAS the number 4 and then free. as I watch you type.
Thanks.
Yep. So that took maybe 2 days, I think. Not like intensive work, but at least it was something to do. And then I went and I spent a bunch of money this week. So what did I buy? One of the things was this Logitech keyboard for my iPad Mini. Bluetooth, normally $100, got it for $20. And the cool thing with that is I can actually use my Mini now as a terminal fairly properly. The on-screen keyboards, in my opinion, had always taken too much screen real estate to do a lot of command line stuff fairly well. But now that I have that, I was actually able to do pretty much everything that I needed to do. And as far as iOS is concerned, I am using a app called Server Auditor, which has a free version and a pro version, which gives you some extra tunneling features and whatnot that I don't particularly have any need for. But it works really, really good. A lot of different font options and screen resolutions, key mappings, and of the 3 or 4 that I tried, it was the only one who decoded my custom prompt properly. I think I showed you that a while ago where it reads the number of files in your directory and does all kinds of cool stuff. And it actually displayed it right. So there's a little shout out to them. A pretty nice program.
What was the program again?
It's Server Auditor. Had like 106 reviews. Had a little over 4 stars overall. So pretty decent for iOS. And so that was one purchase. Another purchase that I happen to have next to me here was the broke it.
You broke it.
Lego Ghostbuster set.
Oh yes, you showed that on Google Plus today.
I did. So
that was very nice.
That took an hour or so to put together yesterday. That was pretty sweet.
Wow. That car must have been somewhat put together.
No, it wasn't that. I mean, it was ages 10 plus, so I had a shot. It's the 15 plus kits that start getting difficult. So worked on that, and then I was actually hoping to have it already, but for whatever reason, shipping was a little delayed. I know I was talking to Joe, and he ended up upgrading his Google TV to a Chromecast, if I remember right.
Uh-huh.
And at the same time, I noticed a sale for the Western Digital TV playback box, which was I think they're normally $100, and I got one for 50.
I've heard good things about that one.
Yeah, me too. I'm pretty. We got a good deal a little while ago on a 40-inch TV, so I didn't really have a nice media player for it. I mean, I got my Chromecast on it, I got my Xbox on it, but I was using the Ouya, which it works, it's fine, but it's still a game console, and you got to go through the joystick and launch the thing and whatnot. And I wanted a standalone player. I have OpenELEC on an original Apple TV, which runs just fine, but in order for it to work, you have to replace the wireless card with a HD decoder card, which means it has to have a wired connection. And where I have everything set up, that's kind of inconvenient. So I figured, well, what the heck, for $50, I'll try this device out and see how it goes. But like I said, it should have been here actually today, and it's not going to be here till maybe Friday.
Woohoo! Way to track shipping.
I know. Don't know why. So did some of that, and then as far as everything else goes, I think there was one other thing that I did, and I can't think what it is now, so that's been my week, or two.
Yeah, your 2 weeks? I'm only covering 1 week.
Yeah, in between gardening and all the other yard work and outside stuff.
I didn't do a heck of a lot. I'm still struggling with different weird issues since I rebuilt my machine. So, for instance, Chrome still has some issue with Audacity, or Audacity has some issue with Chrome. Depends on how you look at it. I can open up Firefox just fine, but I can't open up Chrome and Audacity at the same time. It's really bizarre.
I remember you talking about that. And and I meant to mention to you that I noticed on my machine that Google Hangouts now auto launches and runs in the background because I have that little, task icon or whatever in my notification bar, and it never did that before.
Well, I would like to blame it on Hangouts, but I don't have to kill anything other than shut down. It doesn't happen as long as Chrome is shut down. And we're talking now. I started Firefox and connected to Hangouts with Firefox, and everything is okay. And I could capture this with Audacity without a problem with Firefox up and connected to Hangouts. I tested that out. The problem only comes in with Chrome, and when I try to record some audio, any audio actually, it doesn't even matter. Audacity just all of a sudden doesn't like it. So Chrome's doing something to hold on to something that Audacity is trying to get a hold of, and it doesn't work. It's not a big problem because I just switched to Firefox and use Firefox. The only thing is I like to keep all of one podcast stuff in one browser and all of the other podcasts in the other browser. That way I can just fire up the browser and it opens all the stuff up, which it can't do because now I can as long as I don't need to use Audacity.
Right.
Which is kind of a pain. But so that's like my continuing irritation with being stupid enough to rebuild my box.
That goes back to remember how I said if it was working?
Yep, I totally
you
agree.
need to buy more gadget hardware is what it comes down to, so you can try all this other stuff on your main machine.
Thanks. Why don't you try and convince my wife of that?
I was just gonna say, yeah, that's the roadblock.
That is the gadget block, as it were.
Yes.
Otherwise, I was playing with Flask some more, which is a cool web framework, and just looking for different tools to do various different things. But I didn't find any tools that I thought were super cool, so I'm not really going to talk about those. And I was also spending a lot more time learning Chef, because I've kind of had some cursory knowledge, but I got a deal of a day. If everybody doesn't know about this, you should. There's a deal of a day over at the O'Reilly website, and if you sign up for the deal of the day, then you get ridiculous deals, like 50% off on books, which, for a computer book is a pretty good chunk of change.
Yep.
The books are usually good for, like I said, deal of the day, so they're only good for a day. So you have to watch for them. You have to actually go buy the book in that 24-hour period that they define as a day.
Are they real books or ebooks?
Ebooks.
No.
Which I don't have a problem with, but I know some people do. I think, actually, I take it back. I think you can get regular books too. I just am never interested in the regular book, so I just get the ebook. I think you get the same discount, whatever the discount is for the book, you get the same one for both books, I think.
Yeah, because it'd be a percentage off, because the regular book would be more expensive than ebook in theory anyway, so if it's 30% off both of them, it's going to translate, right?
Yeah. Yeah, see, now you got me all thinking, no. Oh, well.
See, I'm the same way. I read a lot of stuff digital, like most of my magazines and whatnot, I do all electronic now, but I shouldn't say anything, but if I'm learning like coding or languages or something like that, it's easy to copy and paste examples, but right. I still have, it must just be maybe our age or whatever, where I like to read it from the book, and highlight and circle and be able to put folded corners and go back to if necessary when I forget the next day.
Yes. And that stuff I guess is missing. I don't miss that so much because I travel a lot more than you do, and sure. I value the benefits of being able to take my touchpad and carry it to any airport anywhere in the world and be able to read my books, something that I managed to remember to charge it, anywhere. And not have to worry about it, because books aren't that big. They're 25, they're less than the size of an average well done MP3, basically.
Oh, yeah.
High bitrate MP3s. So I did that stuff. So I've been learning Chef again, and not again, but I've been digging more into it and trying to make sure that I really understand how to use Chef properly. So one of the books I was reading was, guess what? Learning Chef. And it's a really good book. It's still pre-release. I don't think it's been released yet, so you kind of have to look for the deal of the days to see if you can find it and get it before they release it. It's kind of funny to get these early releases because silly things like one of the two authors doesn't have anything in there for people he's thanking. So there's like this blah, blah, blah. Would like to thank, and there's no one. And then his co-author has blah, 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 would like to thank, and then there's like 3 or 4 paragraphs worth of people he's thanking. And it's like, guess you're just not done with yours yet. But it was cool. It's a cool book. There's another one that's more of like a cookbook style book. I usually have more luck learning tools like that with cookbooks where I can see an example of something I really want to do instead of some made-up story about something I don't care about. Some environment that they're doing because it's easy, not because it's
right.
Where cookbooks are usually some real-world problem somebody solved, and they go, okay, here's the cookbook I have for how to go search for something or how to manage something. So other than that was about it. Just play with those things.
That's cool.
So let's move on to our topic of the day. And that goes back to my refer to previous comment where I'm on the road a lot now. And I recorded last week remotely. And it didn't happen this last time, but I have had several trips where, for some reason, as soon as my plane touches down wherever I am going, I call the wife and say, hi, how's it going? And the first thing I hear is, the internet's down.
Right.
I'm like, really? Could you be a little more specific as to what that means? The internet is down. do you have TV? Do you have this? Do you have that? Blah, 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 blah. So I started looking at different tools, or I have been for a while, looking at different tools. One of them I found was a tool called Gunnery, which lets you basically just run scripts. It's a Django web app, or Django, sorry. It's a Django web app. I just have a smart-ass thing where I want to say the D in Django, but it's a Django web app. And it lets you run just random scripts, more or less. Not really random, but you have to write scripts, and then you point it to the script and say, okay, run this script. And then if you give it the right response codes, it'll either be green, red, or yellow, I guess. I don't know what the colors are now that I'm thinking about it. But anyways, it's not really important. It'll let me write scripts that can test all the stuff that I do, and then I can just tell my wife, hopefully, if everything works the way I want it to, go to this page, click this button, and it will just go try everything that I'm going to try. It'll check, is DNS working? Can you ping the firewall? Is the firewall responding? Can I get beyond the firewall to the router on the outside, the cable modem router? Can I get to that router and through my firewall and all that stuff, and just basically build itself up? Can I get to Google? And then when it comes down to it, oh look, it's really just some obscure contest website that you were trying to go to, which isn't really well designed or built, and they're getting crushed because the contest site, my wife is a member of a couple of different web contest sites where she goes out, they say, here, go here for this contest and there for that contest, and they track all the contests. When they first put that stuff on, smaller sites like the Branson, Missouri Chamber of Commerce. This is probably a bad example because they probably do actually spend some money on theirs, but let's say just some small town in the middle of nowhere that decided to have a contest. They don't really have the resources to put behind building a stable website, so their sites sometimes aren't very functional after they do one of those releases, and everybody goes, oh, there's new contest, must enter, and they get a flood of people.
Oh, well, that aside, and a half side note, us being in the greater Cleveland extension area, I don't know if you saw Rover's Morning Glory does their Roverfest every year, and tickets normally sell out in under an hour. So this year, there was so many people trying to log in and get tickets, they actually crashed the host site. And it's one of those big, huge companies that, like, that's like their job.
Oh, like Ticketmaster or somebody?
Yeah, it wasn't them, but it was like the web company who would host for Ticketmaster.
Oh, okay.
And he said who the name was, and I forget who it was, and they've used them for years. But like you said, it's just this particular event has grown so big, and because it sells out so fast, for whatever reason, and unfortunately I didn't get to hear what the resolution was because I had to go to work. But yeah, they ended up crashing their site, and because it was on a shared host, many other prominent sites.
That's the problem, folks, with shared hosting.
Yep. So. It's not just the little toe dunks that can happen to if you get something popular on those contests.
Yeah. That's why I recommend virtual private hosting over shared hosting.
Yes.
A little bit more, not much, but a little bit more expensive, especially if you do something like DigitalOcean where it's like $5 a server. But you're isolated from people who get crazy, super popular out of the blue, viral.
Yep. Or the crazy person who doesn't know how to keep their site secure, and oh look, their backdoor is not your backdoor, which might have happened to me a couple times. It's a little sore spot.
I see.
So that's automation.
Automation. So I mean, some people might be sitting there screaming at me right now, going, "Why don't you just use Chef, or why don't you use Puppet? You can do Puppet for 10 servers for free." And the reason why is because it's not. I could deploy a monitoring solution. The problem is the bigger the infrastructure you build, the more infrastructure you have to maintain. And I was just looking for something that is simple, easy, and fast. And I realized I went looking for, there was this program I used to use called Big Brother. Did you ever see that?
I don't think I've seen it, but I do remember you telling me about it.
So it was super popular. It was an open source-ish program. It was super popular in the late 90s. Got supplanted by Nagios and other tools like that did a lot more. But the beauty of it was super simple. You could define all the services you want in like a line. I wanted to check FTP. I wanted to check to make sure the web server's running, make sure I have DNS, blah, 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 make sure all these things are working. And you could easily define it and have it display on a dashboard that was, again, simple and easy and just three colors, green, yellow, and red.
That's why I remember you telling me about it, because of that dashboard. It looked really cool.
Yeah. Oh, and at the time it was the shit because it had like, there's a list of servers down the one column, and then there's dots for all the different services, and then if you wanted to write something more complex, you could write a more complex script for like an application login. Like I want to make sure that somebody could actually log into this application. And then based on the time schedule that you scheduled it, it would run however often. And it actually, towards the end, before it got bought by Quest, which I learned while I was looking to see if I could find it, I was like, man, I wonder if I could find it, because I would love to get it back out, dust it off, and use it again. Well, it's all owned by Quest Communication, or is that Quest Communications? Quest Software. Quest Communications is the phone company. Quest Software, which got acquired by Dell, and I went and looked at it, and I'm like, wow, there's this purchased version. The open source version is gone, because I don't need it bad enough to be willing to spend any real money on it. I would probably donate a few bucks to it if it was, open source, but it's not, and it's really hard to read the website, and I just gave up on it.
Yeah, it was probably one of those purchased and forgotten.
Yeah, it's forgotten where.
Yeah.
Which bums me out, because it was really good. It just was simple. And there's something to be said for a simple tool. There's a joke. I think it was on Food Fight. Maybe it wasn't Food Fight. There was a joke on one of the podcasts. Maybe it was Arrested Development or Arrested DevOps. One of the other DevOps podcasts that I listen to all the time. But they were joking about the fact that every Windows admin has a copy of What's Up Gold.
Right.
Like they all have a copy of the whatever last version that was free or open source or whatever. The free version that you can just put on there. And all of them are running it on some box somewhere hidden away in a corner just so that they know what's up and what's down. Because What's Up Gold was just brain dead simple to run. And it didn't take any effort. It didn't take any, you didn't need to run a whole bunch of stuff. Now, it doesn't do a hell of a lot either. It just says it's up, it's down.
Right. But
that might be good enough. And for my purposes, that would be good enough. I'm just not going to go try and find What's Up Gold. And I didn't really like it, actually, personally. But
that situation where you just need something simple to perform a single task is getting more difficult to find in these elaborate suites of software that is now the norm.
Oh, I mean, I love Nagios, and I love all that it can do, and I love Xenos, and I love all that it can do, and I love Groundworks Open Source and all that it can do, but it is such overkill for what I need at home. Yeah. It's not even funny.
And that's the key. I mean, we're at home.
At home. But how many of us are like you and I that like at home I have servers, right? Like most of the guys I work with, I work for a consulting company. I have 100 guys in my company. I think there's maybe 50% of us that have actual serious servers. Now, some of us are crazy, way crazier than me. I thought I was crazy. They have 62 gig or 128 gigs of memory and terabytes of SSD. Thank you, bonuses.
I was going to say, one for the company, one for me.
They all bought their own stuff, but we get bonus nicely sometimes. Depends on what we're doing. And so they all, they've got some crazy servers. There's some people that are just extreme, that make me feel good about myself, because I always thought I was extreme because I had all these boxes. And every time that somebody from Time Warner Cable comes, or somebody comes to look, like when they came to inspect for the electricity, the first thing everybody says is, "Oh my gosh, you have a lot of computers."
Yeah.
What do you must be in computers, and I'm like,
Right.
you could say that.
Yeah. 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 Guilty.
I'm in computers. Yeah, we'll just go with that. It's a lot easier than explaining that I'm what I really do. So no, we'll just go
Yeah.
with that. That's good. And that's all really cool, but I want those simple tools back. And I really don't want to have to rewrite one. They're not
Yep.
hard to write, but geez, I don't want to have to go write a freaking application to fill the need that I already have, that I know other tools used to solve.
Oh yeah. And in my case, I mean, again, because I work with like some of the ARM devices and the lower power, you can't effectively run some of those higher end applications either. Um,
No.
or I
Even for
couldn't
the
even
smaller,
monitor half the stuff potentially, just because of architecture difference and whatnot. So
yeah, well, some of them on the ARM, they're not going to run because they have compiled C programs
that too.
at this point that would
Yep.
have to be recompiled to run on ARM, and then the person writing it doesn't really want to do that, so that it doesn't happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So here's my question, and I was thinking about this all day because this is something that I have. I got an old uh, Chumby box over here that checks a PHP script on a server, and it puts a little red light if it gets a response back, if it doesn't get a response, and a little green light if it does. It's just a stupid little script and it works fine. And so I was kind of looking at, like you were saying, okay, you're away from home and you can't do anything. So my first question to you was, well, why don't you just remote in and fix it yourself? Because that's the first thing that I would do.
Okay, could I answer that before you ask the next?
Yes. Yes.
So the answer to that is I get to Toledo earlier this year. I get to my hotel, and I actually drove. I didn't fly that time. But I get to the hotel. Wife calls with exactly the problem that I'm describing. Can't get to the internet. Okay. Let me get checked in, and then I'll check it out. I get checked in. I load my laptop up. I start looking for the wired cable. There isn't one. So that means I have to use Wi-Fi. Shit. I connect to Wi-Fi. Well, I should say I try to connect to Wi-Fi on both my phone and on my laptop, both laptops, work laptop and personal laptop. None of them can stay connected. None of them can really get an IP address. And I call the front desk, and they're like, "Oh, well, we don't know what to tell you."
Nice.
Well, could you try a little harder than that? Well, there's nothing we can do about it. The Wi-Fi is free. What are you complaining about? Like, well, it doesn't do me any good if it doesn't work.
Right.
So
Yeah,
that's what I would
that's
be
the thing.
complaining about. And it's not free, by the way, because I paid for it in my room rate, no matter what you want to try and tell me.
Yep.
So, so that was why this was important, especially Gunnery. That's why I was really looking at Gunnery, because then I could write some scripts that would do stuff like, oh, the DNS server's not working. Okay, click this button and it'll log into the DNS server and restart it. Or it'll SSH into the firewall and reboot the firewall.
Yeah, and as far as the gunnery, I went through the website and I watched their videos, and as far as the functionality of that software goes, I think it's actually pretty sweet. But then I got to thinking, okay, now I have to come up with all the scenarios of everything that could potentially go wrong, and all the various solutions to all those various scenarios, write scripts for them, and then have a nice little button or whatever that somebody can click. And 9 times out of 10, the did you turn it off and turn it back on again would probably eliminate the necessity of any of this. The internet isn't working. Could you please flip the switch and flip it back on? Oh, everything reset? Perfect. Off you go.
Well, and you know what? And so a lot of my stuff would just be here, click this button. Well, what I really would end up with, I think, and the way I was imagining it, what I would end up with is one button to rule them all. And you push the one button, and it starts from the firewall, it reboots it, it waits till it's back up, then it starts everything else.
Right.
DNS, DHCP servers, all that stuff.
And that's the exact same, basically, what I came down to as well, is that's what you would have to do, is just the master reset button that just fixed everything.
Right. Because you're right, 99.9% of the time, that's going to fix everything.
Yep.
And other than making sure I can get through, like, I'll make sure I can get through my router first. If I can get through my router, then try to ping something like Google. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah. I might just go, you know what? I'm not home. I don't care. If it takes 20 minutes, it takes 20 minutes. And I can get my wife trained to go click on that button before she calls me, because she doesn't like to bug me. So, not because I'm mean or anything. She just doesn't want to bug me. Or I'll be stuck on a plane. If I'm on a plane...
You're not accessible. Sure.
I'm just not there. But then, also do stuff like restart the wireless network too. Go restart that router. Those are the kinds of things I was thinking about doing with it, because I could script all that stuff pretty easily, especially now that somebody showed me that I could do SSH into my router.
Oh, yo, dude, yeah, you can. We got the same router, dude.
I know, I put the same software on. I just hadn't bothered to look into it, and it was.
Oh yeah.
And it was, look, this ASUS router, I can't say enough for it. It is one of the most stable and consistently running machines of routers I've ever had. We don't have the cleanest power here in the country, and I tend to lose cheap routers about once a year.
Yep.
And this one is on almost the end of 2 years. It's not really showing any needs of being replaced, let's put it that way.
Oh yeah, no, I keep trying to talk myself into buying the latest and greatest, but stupid thing's solid.
It just works. Why bother?
Yep.
The only
go ahead.
No, the only thing I might want was I would kind of like another one to repeat so that I could listen to Pandora while I'm cutting the lawn, and it would get me enough range to get out to the front of the property.
Yeah, see, now that for something like that, you can pick up a cheap one and just load open source firmware on it and put it in repeater mode and be done.
Yeah, and I may do that.
Yeah, there's no reason to spend big money on repeaters. That's where you get your old $20, WRT 54G from 1998 or whatever it was, and throw a tomato on it, and there's your repeater.
Yeah, and I have a couple of Netgears that, I bought my mom a Netgear when she first moved into her apartment, because Time Warner Cable didn't do wireless at that point. And then she gave it back to me when she switched to AT&T, which did do wireless, so she didn't need it. So I'm like, okay. So now I have extra routers, which is good because, like I said, they used to go about once a year, and it would never be at a convenient time. It would always be at the worst possible time, namely when I was getting ready to walk out the door to go somewhere, and my wife was staying home. But, yeah, there's all that stuff. So go ahead. You were gonna say something.
Well, I was gonna say, it's as far as to the point where you need to reboot stuff. Our other friend Buddy, I was talking to a little bit because he's getting into all that home automation, and I was looking at the Belkin Wemo series of products.
Okay.
That is controllable by iPad or Android phone or whatnot. They got light switches, wall plugs, actual bulbs you can put into your lights. But as far as, if you need to actually reboot your router or your cable modem or something, that'd be it's that, what is it, the ITFF?
If some letters.
Yeah, like programmable.
Okay.
So you can actually talk to it. There's an API for it. So as part of your boot routine, you can actually get one of those little devices, plug it in, and it can actually reboot, your provider's cable modem as well as all the stuff you normally have control over, all from remote too, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's a good idea too. So that was the Belkin what?
Belkin Wemo, W-E-M-O, I think it is. Let me double check.
W-E or two E's?
One E. Yeah, W-E-M-O by Belkin. And there's like 3 products out now. You can get them at Best Buy. In fact, the wall plug's on sale. I was almost going to pick one up on the way home today, but I was lazy. But they're coming out with like a new series of products, like some starter kits. So you can get like a control module and a bunch of light bulbs and some other things that are going to be released pretty soon. Belkin's got most of the info on their website. But I can't remember the name of the server that Buddy's going to be running. But at any rate, this supported that.
This is also
open language. So
this is also the same friend who has, because of his work, a free couple of subscriptions for Azure servers, and he was going to put his master control system on Azure.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, just making sure it's the same friend. Yeah.
It is. It is. He's good for product information, not so much implementation.
No, not so much. No, he doesn't think about the big picture all the time.
No.
He's
Or
read. You gotta cut him some slack. He's a developer. He's not an operations guy like the two of us.
He
doesn't have to think about these things. Doesn't have to worry about things going bump in the night. That's somebody else's problem.
Yeah. But in fact, I'm probably going over there to pull cable for him tomorrow.
Sucker.
Yeah. But as far as the whole integrated system kind of thing would go, I might pick one up just to be able to control from my phone.
How expensive is the starter kit like you were talking about?
If you get the one with the lights, I want to say 120, maybe 140. The wall wart I think might have been $50 regular, but it's on sale, $10 off, so it's 40. The wall panels are 60 for like your light switches.
I want to do home automation so badly, but it's just so expensive.
It's super expensive. I mean, I do AMX programming by trade, and all that stuff's like really expensive, and I have a lot of it. You know, I got power controllers and I got some cheap touch panels and a couple of masters and whatnot, but.
Well, compared to the professional stuff, is this considerably cheaper, or is this...
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, you could basically put another zero behind any of these prices, and that's the cheap stuff in my world.
Because I was looking, you know what, Walmart has those, too.
Oh, did they add any at Walmart?
Belkin Wemo light switch for $44.99.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So,
but for what it is, and the nice thing though is that it wasn't locked, because there's a whole bunch of product out there where they have an iPhone app or a Google Android app, and you can talk to it, but that's it. It doesn't have I should look it up, but whatever that open communications protocol where you can actually use it with other things. So that's key. Especially if you want to do some of your own scripting or integration in other product.
Cool. Yeah, the other thing that I want to set up, actually I don't need, I want to set up, I want to set up a zone, is it zone alarm monitoring, the open source monitoring kit, where you can put cameras up, IP-based cameras, or it doesn't have to be IP-based cameras as long as they're accessible via IP. You put all the cameras up, and then you can say, here is a zone, and if anything goes into that zone, alert me. Otherwise, ignore the other stuff around it. So, and you can tell it to ignore stuff like your dog walking through it, or your cat in your case, and tell it to ignore small animals, but alert for anything human-sized, basically. And I really I was playing with my old Galaxy phone upstairs. I had it set looking out the front, and then was using an IP camera software on the phone, a free one for Android. And that worked great as long as it's daylight.
Right.
And that was where I went, oh, that idea just kind of fell apart. It will work really well during the day. And it'll work really well at night as long as it's somebody driving in my driveway.
Right.
Otherwise, no. And of course, all the cameras for outside and stuff have night vision and stuff like that. And they're really not that expensive.
Not anymore.
I mean, you can get a whole kit with like 8 cameras for $300 or $400.
Yep.
With a DVR to watch everything go back. So if somebody trashes your yard, you'll actually have video of them doing it, which you can hand to the police and say, go arrest them. or at least find them.
Right.
I want to
As long as you're smart enough to put the DVR somewhere where they're not going to take that along with all your other electronics.
I was thinking more of somebody turfing my yard. But,
Yeah, well, there's that.
So, all right. Well, I have some things to think about, and if anybody knows of any simple software for monitoring, just brain dead simple. I don't want anything complicated. Don't send me any of the big players because I already know them. I want something simple. Send it to me at Linux Install on Twitter, or give us other great feedback like that. You can do that at Twitter, or you can do it at podcast@linuxinstall.net, or you can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/linuxinstall.net, or Google+, same thing, plus.linuxinstall.net on Google+. And where else can you get a hold of us? Well, I don't know. Don't worry about where else you can get a hold of us. Just worry about rating us, because we haven't gotten any ratings lately. So rate us on iTunes, Gpod, or wherever you find great podcasts. And let us know that you did it, and we will mention you and give you a shout-out on the show.
Sweet. I'm going to go rate this right now.
That's fine. That sounded a little weird. I want to thank Walt for the 5-star rating of the podcast he's on.
Best show ever.
Just don't do it on one word. It's just Joe. It's going to be like this one. Like just you and I. Where you just
Right.
Best show ever. Wait, that's Walt. He's on the show. Duh. That's why it's the best show ever. All right. What should everybody go do, Walt?
Go install some Linux.
Have a nice week, everybody.
See ya.